So the question becomes, what are we doing here? Why are we here? Can't answer that for you. But I can say that I have found something that brings me the joy of Christmas morning. That feeling where you're just so excited in your stomach, you can't handle it. And it's magic cards. These silly cardboard game pieces bring me a level of joy it's just in a certain way indescribable. It didn't really affect me that much until the last few years. As a kid, I liked playing the game. I knew I liked playing the game. I had friends that liked playing the game. I liked collecting cards. I liked opening the packs. I liked playing in the tournaments. I liked winning, of course, building your deck, creating your strategy, using the best cards you have to make what you can, trading with other people to try to get new pieces that you really want. And that was really the joy as a kid. In a certain way, it did feel a lot like the joy I got out of playing other games, especially, video games. But in the last few years, when I realized the value of some of the cards that I had bought as a kid and some of the cards that I had been given as a kid, most of the cards I ever had as a kid most of the cards I ever had all the way until the last few years, I'd been given. I'd been lucky enough that I had a family who was generous and loving and caring. And in particular, I had one aunt who was very ahead of shout out Aunt Cindy, very ahead of the culture. And she lived in Chicago, and so I didn't see my cousins very much. But I did love it when I was able to go out there and visit my cousin. And one time I went out there, I must have been 7 or 8 years old. And my aunt, being very trendy, got him into all the new trends, all the new Tamagotchi and Pokemon. And before that was Magic. And so one of the first things she got him into was Magic. He got some Magic cards. He told me, I guess they went together to the store, and he pointed at those, but I guess she brought him out there, gave him the opportunity to pick what he wanted. He picked some Magic cards, and lucky for me, I went out there and I was able to experience the joy of playing Magic with my cousin, Matt. And we didn't even know how to play. We were 7 and 8. You can't really even understand fully. I mean, just at that age, like we wanted to. We played with the cards. We liked looking at the cards. We shuffled the cards. We tried to play like we were playing, but we didn't even understand. Like, so for example, there's a card called Word of Binding or something like that. It's a black card. It's got X in the mana cost, and if you don't know how a variable works, because you're 7, you don't understand how X is like a number and how to use it in the spell. So we would just play X equals 0. And then that was just how we worked X. That's how we made X understandable. We had to use something, right, to make the card understandable. So we used X as 0 because we didn't understand how to work it. And so then, of course, the cards always did nothing. Anyway, that's how kids played. We just had fun with the deck. We had huge decks, way over 60 card, which there was only a 60 card format basically back then, as far as I knew. And, it was like revised edition time, I think, was the cards we were playing. Maybe unlimited, but I think just revised. But it was my first exposure then. And I had a lot of, time playing as a kid growing up that I guess as fun as it was and as interesting as it was, I never really thought that it was going to be that big of a thing. I tried not to spend money on cards as I got older and I had an option to spend money. 12, 13, 14, I had a little bit of allowance, $10 a week or something. 15, 16, I actually had a job at 16. Started having money coming in, and I felt like I didn't want to waste my money on all those Urza Saga packs and whatever at the time. Of course, how silly that sounds, spending $3.95 on an Urza Saga pack sounds like, yeah, I'd probably want to do that. Well, I could have then, and I didn't want to waste my money on that. So don't take advice from me. In fact, this channel is probably going to be more about learning lessons from my mistakes than anything else, and just kind of a personal journal. But from those experiences and from those stories, we'll talk about my interests in the history of Magic and the cards I remember from a long time ago and the impact those had culturally, which you just can't find those on a pricing sheet on TCG Player or on a card list of old cards. You can't find out the ones that meant something to a kid who was playing in the 1990s. So I want to share those stories and what the cards meant to me back then and how it developed into what it is now for me, which is kind of a lifelong passion. And I really truly feel like I have stumbled into what I believe is my purpose, because I am so excited about Magic cards, about that feeling that I get when I think about opening packs and old cards, and it's largely due to the investment value. And now realize the value of these old original pieces, the reserve list cards, even the non-reserve list original cards from 90, 93, 94, and a little bit later too, are going to have very long-term historic value. I think Alpha Investments, Rudy always talks about museum quality art, and I think these pieces to be that. I think that the cards are museum quality art, and I think the years will tell that, and I think that they already have, really. When you see the prices over the last, say, 30 years, I remember when a Black Lotus was $400 near mint alpha, and I'm thinking to myself, who would ever spend $400 on a card? It's ridiculous. It's absurd. It was the most expensive card in the Beckett or the Inquest. I can't remember what magazine we were looking at, but that's how you knew what stuff was worth. And of course, as a kid, you're like, $400, I would never spend that. It sounds ridiculous. But then you remember that as an adult. I remember seeing that price as a kid and thinking how ridiculous it was. But of course, now we know that that card is worth way more. And how many more we wish we would have bought back then. So, because of how many more I wish I would have bought back then, led me to 2020, 2021. Where I actually did buy more. And we're going to go through that story and that journey and that investment and the potential mistakes I've made, the absolute mistakes I've made and the lessons I've learned. And we're just going to have a good time joking about it. And hopefully I can, share some of my pain, my experience, and my frustrations with you so that you won't have to experience those as painfully as I did. And along the way, we're going to try to bring some, in addition to, information, curating valuable information. We're going to try to build up. We're going to try to give that experience that I had. I was so lucky to have grown up in a time where I was gifted so many cards. I was gifted with the experience, with friends, with community and opportunity to play Magic growing up. And we're going to take a portion of everything that comes out from this channel, from these operations, and we're going to send it back. And we're going to give it back to the new generation. New generation, I don't care if they're playing Magic or whatever, card games they're playing nowadays. I suppose it'll still be Magic cards, but we're going to be giving, Magic cards to the new community. We're going to make some videos about teaching new players how to play and some deck concepts and all different types of things like that. So it's going to be really oriented toward the community, new players, and bringing the joy of Magic to more people, hopefully. And I really hope to give the experience to other people that I had a couple years ago to look back at my 30-year-old collection of cards, 25-year-old, and just be amazed at the value. So I hope you stick with me on this journey. We're going to learn a lot, we're going to share a lot, and we're going to create a community here about building up people, building up your value, building up your esteem, recognizing the world, understanding the world, and most importantly, probably just trying to find that joy in life, that absolute joy that is just so fleeting for a lot of people, faint memory for many. And if you can remember what it was like, the joy of Christmas morning, at least for me, it's hard to remember it, but when I get really, really excited about Magic cards, I feel it. I absolutely feel it. And so I hope that other people feel, I think other people do feel that, and I hope to bring that to more people and share and look at some beautiful art and enjoy the world. Thank you. Have a good day. Don't let nobody get you down.